Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. It is like almost 9 o'clock here in New York City. In Brooklyn, I am back from London. I had an amazing time. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love London. Such an amazing, wonderful city. Met such incredible people. If you guys had been following my Instagram story, you can check me out, Instagram The Lighted Ones. I tried to keep sort of like a, sort of a running diary of what I was doing, and I was sharing some of my photos on Facebook as well. But I had the chance to go to Stonehenge in Avebury, which was amazing. Stonehenge, I highly recommend, just from the sake of having to be able to see it in person. When I was talking about going to London, a lot of people were saying, I had initially thought, well, I want to go to Stonehenge. And hey, Jared. A lot of people said, you need to go to Avebury. Like, if you only have a choice between Stonehenge or Avebury, you have to go to Avebury. And I'd never heard of Avebury. So for all of you who recommended it, thank you, because I did end up going and it was amazing. But at the time I was like, well, I can't go all the way to London and not go to Stonehenge. That's like going to Paris and not going to the Eiffel Tower. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of sort of, for me anyway, the two are linked. So, but I found a tour that did both. So I went to Stonehenge, which was amazing. The downside, I think, to Stonehenge is that it has been very commercialized. It's very touristy, and you can't really get close to the stones anymore. They keep you like a good, 30 to 60 feet. You can walk around the entire monument, and you can, there's a lot of information at the visitor center, but now it's like you can buy sweatshirts with Stonehenge on it, which, may not be such a bad thing. There was actually some that were kind of cool. If they had been a little cooler, then maybe I would have bought one. But Avebury is amazing. That is I think it is the largest stone circle henge that I think on the planet, if I'm not mistaken. If I am mistaken, I apologize, but it's one of the biggest ones. And you can actually, the stones are, you can get up in them, you can touch them, you can, feel them and really interact with them. And the energy at Avebury was like, that's a fucking vortex, man. Like, there is some powerful stuff going on there. Stonehenge had a lot of really amazing energy too. I definitely felt the presence of the stones. But at Stonehenge, it was almost like, I really think that a lot of the energy that I was picking up on anywhere were the projections of people and the energy that they bring with them and their expectations of what Stonehenge is and their beliefs and all that. But anyway, it was amazing. Regardless, I think that you should do both if you can. And there are a lot of tours that you can take that will take you to both. So there's a lot of ways that you can get there, or if you know someone that's local, or if you want to rent a car, you can drive to both in one day. It's certainly doable. But it was amazing. And I'm back. I got back a couple of days ago. It's Thursday. I finally feel like I've slept off my jet lag. I'm feeling a little bit more on even keel. And definitely felt the energies of the solstice yesterday, man. It knocked me out. I think I was also kind of jet lagged still, so that may have something to do with it. But I definitely felt a lot of big energies coming in yesterday, and they will continue. And then we have the new moon coming up this weekend, which I believe is a super moon, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken again. I could just be full of mistakes today. But my courses at the College of Psychic Studies, were incredible. The lecture on Friday was awesome. The private clients were great on Saturday, and then my full day workshop on Sunday. If you're watching this and you came, thank you again for coming, because it was so lovely to meet so many of you, and I was just thrilled with the response to, see 40-something people show up at the lecture on Friday, many of whom had no idea who I was. It was just really an honor to be able to present my work to people and to share the information that I had. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I've already booked dates to return in February. So if you didn't get to come for the dates I just did, then keep your eyes open, because I have dates coming up in just a few more months. And February is going to be here before we know it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about, before I left about a week and a half ago, I did that video, what was it called? Choose More of What You Desire. If you haven't watched that video, you can still, this was an exercise that I shared with everybody, and it was a challenge that I put out, to really begin to mindfully choose to pick an idea, a word, an emotion, an energy, a concept, freedom, joy, love, ease, creativity, whatever it was, to pick something and to really begin to consciously choose it. And here was the thing, here was the challenge, right? I said, okay, pick an idea or pick something that you want more of in your life. And I used, I believe, freedom as an example. and deliberately find 3 times a day where you can choose freedom in whatever way you can choose it, right? And it may seem incremental and it may seem small, or it may be big and it may be more profound, but that size doesn't matter, right? The universe, God, the angels, spirit, whatever you want to call it, is responding. The field of potential is responding to our vibrational output. And that vibrational output is a combination of our emotions, our beliefs, our choices. And so when we begin to consciously and deliberately choose whatever it is we want to see more of in our experience, we are sending the signal and we are changing and shifting our interface, right? Our energy, our aura, our energy field is a geometric structure. This is what I have begun to see more and more in the energy work that I've been doing with clients and in groups, is that our energy shape, our structure is geometric. And when we make a shift internally, when we begin to create something new for ourselves, then we create a new interface. We plug into reality in a new way, and reality begins to respond to us, because the external world is the secondary reality, right? The primary reality is the internal one. So I set down a challenge for you, and I said, okay, find something. Freedom was the example I used again. Pick something that you want to see more of in your experience, and when you actively and consciously and deliberately start to choose it, when you make a point of finding it in your experience, no matter how small or how big it may seem to the mind, because the mind is the only one that's hung up on size, let's be honest. Size doesn't matter to the heart or to the field of potential. The only thing that matters is the choice and the actions that come of those choices. You know, because freedom always feels like freedom. And if we're looking at the energy signature of freedom, if we could measure somehow that frequency, or if we had a way to map it and to say this is the shape of freedom, well, it's a fractal, right? So a teeny tiny little bit of freedom moving in an incremental direction towards choosing freedom, or choosing freedom in a very small way, is the same exact structure and the same exact feeling and emotion and vibration of choosing freedom in a big way. So what I said was, find something you want more of in your life, begin to deliberately choose it at least 3 times a day, and then at the end of the day, do this for 7 days in a row. At the end of each day, write down the 3 ways or more, if you found more opportunities to do so, but write down at least 3 times that you chose it deliberately during the day. Because here's the second piece. When you show up to honor and celebrate how it is that you move the mark within your own experience by choosing more freedom, you get excited, and this frequency begins to, sort of create itself within your energy field, and you're sending the message that freedom is the thing that gets me excited. I love freedom. I choose freedom. Freedom excites me. I am looking back on the ways that I chose freedom throughout the day, and I'm celebrating that, and I'm honoring that. And so you're basically sending the message again. You're reaffirming that, yep, freedom is the deal. And the reason that I recommended that you do this for 7 days is because it does take practice to learn to, I'm going to check out some notes here that I jotted down before I started, to learn how, to remember the truth of how we really create, to remember what it really is to be a master sovereign creator. We are just remembering that. We are going back to the truth. We are going back to the way that things really are. We are moving beyond this distortion. And there was a post that I wrote on my blog. If you didn't read it, I wrote it while I was in London. I believe it was called New Levels Are Open Now. Something to that effect, but it's on my blog, on my website. It's also on my Facebook page. Let me just check the title really quick so that I can make sure I give you the right title. Pardon me. So the title of the blog post was, sorry, I know this is annoying to have to sit through me sorting through my Facebook. I was not prepared. This was a total spontaneous decision. Higher Levels Open Now. That's what it's called. So this Higher Levels Open Now is talking about removing these layers of distortion, removing these layers of limitation, and the experiment of limitation is over. So now we are in this place where we have even more ability and even greater ability to directly reconnect with the truth of who we are and how we create. And the beautiful thing, and I've said this a million times before, one of the most profound, exciting things about being a human is that the human creates through emotion. It is our emotional state and our emotional choices, our emotional ideas, and our beliefs that are generally based on emotion, right? Because the only reason that we ever choose anything is because how we think it will make us feel. And so we are almost always in every second, every moment creating from an emotional place. And whether that's subconscious, conscious, or superconscious, or unconscious, conscious, or superconscious, unconscious is right, it's an unconscious thing and I don't even know that it's impacting me. This is belief that I have that's ancient or sort of hidden and I'm not really even consciously aware of it. Conscious is saying, oh yes, I want vanilla over chocolate. And then a super conscious choice is the higher self or the oversoul or whatever it is on the higher level. The expanded self is saying, hey, I think it's time for Andrew to have this experience because this is going to propel him to this next level of awareness. So I'm choosing to create this situation for him, whether or not, and oftentimes that's a difficult distinction to make because we oftentimes still think of ourselves as separate from it. This is the deal. The whole point of this exercise is there are multi-levels to the point of this exercise. One of which is to remind you of the truth that you are a multi-dimensional being. You have levels of self that you haven't even really begun to consciously access. And this whole place where we are now about removing these layers of restriction, removing these layers of limitation as this experiment of the 3D Earth School ends, is that we now are beginning to access higher levels of knowing and remembrance and awareness much more rapidly and much more profoundly than we ever have before. So the truth is whether it's unconscious, conscious, or superconscious, on some level it's still a choice. And you really begin to serve yourself by removing the distinction and being present in your experience and just saying, oh, okay, well, this is a plot twist. I wasn't necessarily expecting this, but it was brought to me by some choice or on some level, so I'm going to contend with whatever is present. And that's where the power of choice comes in. So this exercise, this challenge that I gave you to begin to mindfully and deliberately choose what it is that you want to experience more of in your life and call more of into your experience. Another thing that it does is it trains you to be present. It trains your mind, your body, your emotional self, your mental self. It trains you to be present, because here's the deal. Your energetic self is always present. It's like the frequency that you're sending out, whether or not you're aware of it or not, is always sending out a frequency. It is always sending out a vibration, a geometry, an oscillation. It's kind of like, when you're unconsciously doing, the TV is always on. It's just whether or not we are deliberately choosing the channel that we are watching. Do you feel me? So this exercise of deliberately being conscious about your choices and being present with your choices of what you want to experience and bring more into your experience, it trains you to be present. It trains you to be present with your energy system and your energy body and go, wait a minute, okay, I'm feeling something or I'm experiencing something or there's an emotion coming up here and I'm not really sure what this is, but it allows you to be present so that it can show itself to you. Right? When you are present, you are in the flow. When you are present, there is no resistance. Presence is the antithesis of resistance, right? Resistance is saying, I don't want what's here. I don't want to experience what's here. I can't, whatever it is. Resistance is what creates suffering. Suffering is always created by the desire to escape the present moment and the present experience. So when I just let it go and I allow myself to be mindfully present with it and deliberately within my choice of how am I going to engage the circumstances of my life, or even more powerfully, how am I going to consciously shift the circumstances of my life by my deliberate choice. This is part of what this exercise teaches you, is it begins to remind you of what it is like to be fully connected and anchored within your experience so that you are always in the flow, right? It's like that thing, I shared this message last year at some point about be like water. Water is simultaneously receptive and assertive. Water doesn't stop, it keeps flowing, but it also, when it meets a boulder in the middle of the river, it doesn't stop and have a breakdown about the perception of this boulder being a block. It just finds a way to flow around it, over it, or under it. So choosing to be present with your choices in each moment and observe your experience from that neutrally curious place reminds you of how we really truly create, which is constant in every single moment. And the minute that we go unconscious, the minute that we sort of go asleep or go into resistance because I don't want to deal with it, that's when things begin to occur in a level that we would perceive, or often we have perceived, as like, oh, life is happening to me, oh, I'm a victim, oh, I'm powerless, oh, look at this horrible thing thing that's happening to me. But the beautiful thing about this exercise is it teaches you how in every single moment, no matter how difficult things may seem, you always have the opportunity to switch into that mode of just being present with it and just being mindful and going, okay, this is what is present. This is what I am connected to. This is what I have access to in this red hot second right now. And how do I want to proceed from here, right? You accept it. You let it be what it is. You don't fight it. Now, acceptance doesn't mean that you want to repeat it, right? It doesn't mean you want to perpetuate it, but you can't change it until you allow it to show you what it is. So when you are mindfully and deliberately showing up in your experience to choose what you want to bring into it, this is when things begin to shift. This exercise teaches you how to detach from your emotional self. You know, I shared this message very early on this year. I think it was maybe February, March, or April, somewhere around there. And the lesson that we were doing in the soul expansion calls was, you know, untethering from the emotional field. And it was really interesting to me how people got very reactive to that. This idea that my emotions are mine, and why would you tell me not to feel things, and why would you tell me not to have an emotional experience? And it was completely misunderstood, which I actually kind of liked, because what it did was it really pointed people to where they allow their emotions to control them. I am never one to say don't be present with your emotions. There is very, very deep value in allowing yourself to be present with your emotional state, and it is required for transformation. Until you allow your emotional self to reveal itself to you, to give you the messages, to do the work or the shifts or whatever is asking for your attention within, you've got to learn how to experience your emotional state. But here's the thing, you can learn how to do it without it controlling you. The emotional field is a choice. You can choose to create from your emotions, or you can be simply observant of them and present with them and then decide, right? So you have fear come up, and if you're not in that place of standing in your truth and your power, you're going to believe that the fear is real. You're going to believe that you have to respond to it, and you are more often going to be creating from it with an unconscious reaction or a sort of a knee-jerk to this fear, right? It makes you very reactive. When you are in that state of presence and mindfulness, you go, oh, okay, there's fear present. Fear is coming up within me. What story within me is active that allows me or that gives me access to this fearful place? Do I want to go into this vibration or this experience from fear? Do I want to create from it? Or do I want to be present with my fear? Do I want to allow myself to reveal so it can reveal itself to me? Allow myself to be present with the fear, observe it, let it go, and then move from there, right? Create from a place that's more neutral. Create from a place that's more positive, more empowered, and more joyful. It's the same thing with anger, right? When anger arises, I can let myself experience it without letting anger be the catalyst for my creation. Because your emotional state and wherever you are acting from emotionally is the fuel for your creation. If I'm driving the car and I'm filling up the tank with fear, the road that I am traveling is going to be paved with fear, because that's what I have chosen. So this exercise, this challenge that I threw out a week and a half ago, allows you and reminds you and teaches you how to be present within your emotional state, to contend with those emotions, to allow them to reveal themselves to you, and then you get to consciously decide, do I really want to create from fear, or do I want to create from the higher expression? Do I want to choose joy? Do I want to choose ease? Do I want to choose abundance? Do I want to choose joy, excitement, whatever it is? So this exercise also begins to put you in that place of being the observer of your experience without having to be commanded by your emotions. When we first start on our spiritual awakening and we move into this place of being conscious on our journey, we oftentimes have to deal with a lot of dark, heavy, muddied, tangled emotional stuff, because it's all the stuff that we haven't really contended with, or all of the stories that we believe to be true about ourselves, right? And we slowly go through them, we unbox them, we unravel them, we begin to sort through them and realize, like, oh, this is just an old story, it's an old fear, it's old conditioning, whatever. But until you begin to mindfully and consciously show up in your experience and to sit with those fears and observe them and say, okay, my little fear monger, what do you want me to know? Why are you always so present in my experience? Until you do that, you are going to believe that you are the mercy of your emotions, and you're going to continue to create an experience that is lopsided, that is not balanced, and that is rooted in fear or anger, whatever it is. So this challenge of consciously, deliberately choosing reminds you of that truth. It brings you back to that truth of, oh, I don't have to choose from an emotional state if I don't want to. And if I do want to choose from an emotional state, I can choose a higher expression. I can choose a lighter expression. I can choose a much less dense, heavy, reactive, panicked, fearful expression. Or I can continue to choose the other thing. That's the beautiful thing. It's up to you. The decision is yours. We are in this free will environment of the Earth School, and you get to decide what you want to do. So this exercise brings you to that place of stillness. It really allows you to remember how to be in that place of choice again, so that it's not reactive. And when you begin to consciously show up in your experience, you create space. This is the truth. One of the most profound things that you will realize on your spiritual journey, and one of the most profound things that I have realized on my path, is that where my power really lies is in the spaces, in the emptiness, in the void. That's where the power is. Because once the choice is made, the choice is made. It is that void between the emotion or the thought or the inspiration, and then the space between that and the choice. This is where my power really lies. This is where I get to really root myself fully in the truth of who I am and go, okay, I get to decide. This fearful experience has come to me, and whether I chose this subconsciously, unconsciously, consciously, or superconsciously, it doesn't matter. Who the fuck cares where it came from? Because what's important now is I get to decide what happens from this moment on. And the most exciting way for me, and the most rewarding way I have found is, and really the way that makes me feel the most powerful and empowered, is to let myself be in that space first. So it doesn't have to be a rash, impulsive decision. It doesn't have to be a quick, on the fly, oh my God, what did I just do? I have the impulse, and then I get to sit, and I get to expand into that fullness, and I get to really tune in and say, okay, what is present here? What do I really want to call in for myself? How do I want to respond? Because my response is what creates what comes next. And a really powerful thing begins to happen. In the beginning, the space between the impulse and the decision might seem almost, it's like you have the thought or the impulse and you react, right? So the space is almost, it's non-existent. It's like you go from, emotion, response, and your life is very reactive. So what you learn is through meditation, through mindfulness, through silence, through whatever it is, through stillness, you begin to create the much bigger space. And it gives you, it's like your training wheels. And it gives you this time to learn how to choose consciously and deliberately. And a lot of times what this requires is you speaking up and saying, you know what? Thank you for the question, right? I can't respond to that right now. Or you're in an argument or things can start to get heated and you say, you know what? I need time and space to get clear on what I want. So you create a place in your life where you have more space. And then a beautiful thing begins to happen. There's this tipping point where you become really adept at remembering how to choose and create deliberately and consciously. So you no longer require that big of a space, because now you know what to trust. Now you know what, and this is what I've said, this is where you really begin to live the truth of only you know what truth feels like. And through these challenges and through these exercises, you begin to detach yourself and untether yourself from the external stories, the external expectations, the external projections, the external ideas of who you are. You really begin to find the truth, and you connect to that, and you go, no, now I know who I am. I know what my truth feels like, and it is unmistakable and without question what my truth feels like. So then you return back to a place where you have the idea or the impulse or the inspiration or the experience or whatever, and then you have the choice and you have the decision, but the space between it is much less again, because now you're more aligned with your truth, right? You're in that flow and you know what it feels like, and so you don't need that time. But if you ever do need that point to say, wait a minute, I need to sit with this, I need to think on this, I need to feel my way into this before I make a decision, you have that. But it's not necessarily it's no longer as necessary as it once was. So this is what this exercise, this challenge does for you on some level, is it puts you back in the driver's seat. It gives you a mechanism to be present and to be empowered and to be mindful in your experience. Because here's the thing. People come to me all the time in my one-on-one sessions and my group stuff. People always want to know about their purpose. Why did I come here? There's something else I came here to do. I know there's got to be another reason. There's got to be another choice. There's got to be another option. And they're always looking for their purpose. And they're right. There is something else. Everyone has a purpose for being here. And what your purpose is really unique to who you are. And nobody else gets to tell you what it is. But here's the deal. Your truth leads you to your purpose. To be in your purpose, to be creating from your purpose, to be living and conscious and rooted in your purpose requires an unflinching, oftentimes exhausting level of truth within yourself. You cannot be bullshitting yourself on any level and expect to be standing fully in your purpose. And the more attuned to and the more in line with your truth you become, the more profoundly connected you become to your purpose, and the more clearly it reveals itself to you. Your purpose reveals itself to you through your willingness to show up and be in truth within yourself. And whatever that requires, leaving jobs, leaving relationships, making new choices, letting go of habits, patterns, beliefs, stories, whatever it is, all of that leads you to your truth. When you are standing in your truth and you are living from and creating from and choosing from that truth, which is that you are an infinite master, sovereign creator who came here to do something very specific. In order to get to that purpose, you gotta move all the stuff that's piled on top of it. You cannot have one without the other. And so often people get stuck on the purpose and they don't really realize that all you got to do is unravel all the bullshit stuff within yourself that holds you apart from your purpose. And the more you unravel, the closer you come to your purpose, and before you know it, you are aligned with it and it reveals itself to you and you go, oh my God, I see it now. And I'm here to testify that there's always a deeper connection with truth available. There's always a new moment of realization and revelation available to you, which will be at some point become the exciting thing, right? At some point you become a treasure hunter for the bullshit in your life so that you can unravel it, sit with it, integrate it, accept it, release it, whatever it calls you to do, so that you can then have a clearer idea of what your purpose is. And once you have aligned with your purpose, an amazing thing begins to happen. Because what I see is, there's when we are looking for our purpose, when we are trying to find it, it's guiding us forward. It's like dropping breadcrumbs and we're following the breadcrumbs to find this purpose. It's like this little nymph in the woods that's darting in and out of the trees, and we can see a little glimpse up here and we go in this direction, then we see a glimpse over here and we go in that direction. And we always feel like we're beseeching it, right? It's guiding me forward. Where are you? Show me, send me a message, send me a sign, connect with me. Where is it? Once you have discovered that purpose through your willingness to do the work that connects you with your truth, because you are the only one that knows what that truth feels like. And once you show up in service of your truth, you and your purpose begin to merge, and a really powerful thing happens. Once you merge with your purpose, now it's not calling you forward anymore. Now it is standing before you, waiting for you to give it direction, waiting for you to make a command, to make a choice. Because once you've discovered that purpose and you're aligned with it, now your purpose shows up in service of you. And you say, I want to do one-on-one clients, or I want to do workshops, or I want to do this thing, or I want to go here and do that in service of the purpose. Because once you find the purpose, I promise you, it lights you up, and that's all you want to do. And once you have done that, the purpose says, yes, let's do that. Okay, you want to do classes? Here are all the opportunities and the ways that you can do classes. Which one looks exciting to you? And you say, well, I want to travel. I want to travel and do classes over there. And the purpose shows up and says, okay, here are all the opportunities. Here are the cooperative components. Here are the connections and the relationships and the opportunities for you to go over there and do classes. So then you begin to choose. So once you have aligned with that purpose, the purpose then begins to show up in service of you, and it becomes your team member. It becomes your assistant. It becomes your advisor, and it says, hey, what about this? What if we did it this way? And you say, yeah, that's cool, let's do that. And then it opens up. Or you say, no, I'm not really into that. What I'd like it if it was a little bit more like this or that, so it's a work in progress, and you grow and evolve in tandem in relationship with your purpose. That is what co-creation is all about, is reminding you of the truth that when you show up in service of the work that you already agreed to do in this lifetime, you can have just about anything. Because when you are congruent with the truth of who you are and you're moving in the direction together, it just keeps opening up and opening up and opening up. It's only when we go sideways and we're sort of at odds with it, that's when things get wonky and lopsided and they sort of go off the rails, or they come to a screeching halt, and whatever, we find it again, right? It's always a process of unfolding. So that's what the whole point of this challenge was. And what I loved was I got a lot of feedback from many of you through email, on my YouTube, on my Facebook. A lot of people responded to this video, and thank you so much for sharing your experiences with me. And the one common thread that I saw through all of it, which was so exciting to see, was that it reminds people of their power. It reminds people that they are the creators of their experience. And when they showed up and they were looking for freedom or joy or ease or love or whatever it was, and they didn't see it right away, they kept looking for it. They kept digging for it. They created opportunities for it. When they said, you know what, freedom I don't feel like freedom exists in my experience right now, but I'm going to fucking create it. I am going to create freedom in my life. And so they begin to work. When you work with where you are, that's the whole point, right? That's the whole premise of this exercise, is that you cannot be granted something until you choose it. This is the example I use all of the time when I talk about this, is people saying, well, why does God let there be, if God exists, why don't we have world peace? If there really is a God, why are we always at war and in torment with each other? Why doesn't God just come down and give us world peace? Why on earth would God give us world peace? We can't go for a day without calling for the death of somebody or some group. So until we show up and deliberately choose it and say, I am an example of peace within my life. I am choosing to create peace within me. And as I choose to create it within myself, then I am able to show others how to do it through my example, through my teachings, through whatever it is that I do. So when you are asking for freedom, to use the example for this video, and you show up to choose freedom no matter what, that's when you're sending the signal that I am fucking serious about freedom. And I am so serious about it that I'm going to create opportunities to choose it, even when I feel that there is no freedom available to me. And so you begin to reveal it to yourself in very small ways. Because again, size doesn't matter. Freedom always feels like freedom. Joy always feels like joy. Love always feels like love. Whether it's 2 seconds of it or a lifetime of it, the signature of freedom is always the same. So when you start to show up and write freedom and code freedom into your geometric energy structure, you begin to connect with people, places, opportunities, and circumstances in the secondary reality that match that signature. This is like quantum level law of attraction. This is taking it to the next level to remind you that you are the creator of all of it. On some level, it's been chosen by you. So that is the point of this exercise, is to ultimately lead you to your truth, which will lead you to your purpose, because your truth is always tied to your level of awareness. And the clearer that you get within yourself, the clearer your experience becomes. Clarity begins within. And once you have found your truth, that's when you begin to open up to your passions, because your passion is your purpose and your purpose is your plan. What's the plan? Where's the plan? How, you are the plan. You are the plan. The purpose that you already chose to experience in this lifetime is the plan, and you already chose it. You had a hand in creating. You are the architect of it. So find your truth, find your passion, find your purpose, and that will begin to create the plan. So that was the follow-up. I just wanted to, show up and say thank you for participating in the exercise. If you haven't done it yet, I invite you to do it. And thank you to all of you who, responded and gave me your feedback and said, you know what? It may not have been the idea of freedom that my mind was telling me it was, but man, I saw freedom in very profound, very real ways in my experience. And it didn't shift everything in my life, but it began a shift. And when you begin a shift, that's when you create a crack, right? When you create a crack in the reality that you're not really super jazzed about it anymore, when you create that shift, it creates a crack, and that's where the light gets in. And over time, that crack becomes bigger and bigger, the light becomes brighter and brighter, and there is a tipping point when you remember and you go, oh, I get it. I'm always the one creating and choosing my experience. Also really excited about my radio show, which debuts today, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, Transformation Talk Radio. I'm super excited. You can go right to the website. It's also going to be on my Facebook page. It's also on my website under the radio tab. And you can tune in to listen to my first episode, which actually is You Don't Need a Plan. The title of today's episode is You Don't Need a Plan, How to Feel Your Way to a Life That You Love. And we're going to be talking about these concepts, right? How to really feel your way into it, how to consciously and actively choose it. That's it. I'm going to finish the rest of my iced coffee and get to the gym before my radio show. So thanks you guys for watching. As always, I love these chats and these experiences we get to share. Have a fantastic Thursday. Happy summer. Happy day after solstice. Oh, and Soul Expansion. If you haven't signed up, you can still sign up for there's one more for June this Sunday, which would be what, the 26th, something like that. And when you sign up for the full series, you get the previous MP3s of the other calls. So you can still sign up for those and do the energy work and get caught up to speed so that you can join us on this Thursday, or this Sunday, excuse me. That's it. Have a fantastic day, you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.